You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey! Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Thursday, February 5th, 2015, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Welcome to the show. So glad you could join us today. I'm really excited. Today's my last day this week. There won't be a live show tomorrow because I'll be flying to San Bernardino, California for the High Times Cannabis Cup. The first Cannabis Cup of 2015, the first of 6 that we'll be covering live here at 420 Radio and the Russ Belville Show. And if you check out our main page at 420radio.org, you might notice a slight design change. We got some new buttons there for all of the pop-up windows you might want to use, including a brand new audio-only pop-up button for those of you on slow bandwidth, as well as the RB Live button. That's our live channel. So during the weekend, 420 Radio will continue playing all the regularly scheduled shows, but if you want to see my live feed from the Cannabis Cup from noon to 6 p.m. both days, plus 7:30 to 9 o'clock on Sunday for the Cannabis Cup Awards, you can click that RB Live button, take you right to the live feed, and you'll be the first to know who wins the High Times Cannabis Cups. Also, you will be the first to hear all of the interviews and see all of the events from the floor, the presentations, the panels, and more on the RB Live channel through 420radio.org, or you can go to our short link, rad-r.us/live420. Probably easier just to go to 420radio.org and click that RB Live button, but I like to give you all the options I can. We got plenty of news for you today and special guests and all sorts of fun for the next 2 hours. I don't know how we'll get it all in, but we'll figure a way out. I was there at the New Approach Oregon press conference this morning. They held it at the ACLU of Oregon, announcing their campaign to fight to get Measure 91 implemented as written. You'd think that when the people vote for something and pass it with an overwhelming 56% majority, that it would just become the law, but that's not the case. The legislators in Salem are doing their level best to try to tinker with, amend, and even abolish some of the key provisions of Measure 91. So, the Measure 91 campaign, New Approach Oregon, has decided to come out publicly to fight for the initiative that the people passed. We're going to help them as much as we can. We'll bring you that press conference, my recording of it coming up in hour 2, bottom of hour 2. We'll show that to you. Also on the show today, you got a special guest coming in for hour 2. Perfect day for him to come in here. Monty Blaze from Rap 27 is coming in. We're going to talk about his upcoming show, Blazin' with Monty Blaze, and maybe hear a couple of tracks from this artist, as well as our daily Toker Tunes, Groovin' Thursday. We got a track coming up. Our own Chuck Diesel will be bringing us something. But in our first hour, all sorts of great stuff. We got Mark Thornton from the Mises Institute, a leading institute on Austrian economics. He'll be here to talk about the economics of drug prohibition. We've also got a piece from the New York Times on the banking dilemma in legal Colorado. We'll put that at the end of the show. We'll have time for a mini radical rant in the middle of the show where Fox Denver has exposed welfare on marijuana spending. I've got to say something about that. We've also got time for Behind the Headlines. In Behind the Headlines today, we're going to take a look at the new Zaz marijuana vending machines that have been unveiled in Seattle, Washington. But everything starts with the 420 Radio News, and in the headlines today, another study on marijuana use and the brain. We've got North Dakota fighting for medical marijuana, responsible Ohio spending millions before they've even gathered a single signature, Germany moving forward on medical marijuana, and Idaho not moving an inch on medical marijuana. All that coming up on the Russ Belville Show. Stick around. And remember, vapes.buzz 420 Radio promo code for your 10% off your vaporizer purchase. Check out vapes.buzz. We're back right after this.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
You can get 420 Radio on the go with the TuneIn Radio app for all mobile platforms. Go to rad-r.us/420tunein or just click the TuneIn Radio icon below the live radio feed on 420radio.org.
Sir, do you think there will or should come a time for us to discuss the possibility of legalization, regulation, and control of all drugs, thereby doing away with the violent criminal market as well as a major source of funding for international terrorism? Thank you so much for your time, Mr. President.
Well, I think this is an entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Name the time and place, Mr. President. Radical Russ has been prepping for this debate full-time since 2005. The Russ Belville Show.
I like that.
Well, I don't know what you came to do, but what we came to do.
That's right, baby. We're keeping the funk alive right here at Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink, your groovy home of soul, funk, and disco. So join me, Big Daddy, every Thursday night at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific at the Funky Roller Rink, where every night is Saturday night.
This is Radical Russ encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay. Read the Weed Blog today. It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available daily on our website at 420radio.org. Now, here's Russ Belville with your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is your 420 Radio News for Thursday, February 5th, 2015. Daily marijuana use is not associated with brain shrinkage when controlling for the effects of alcohol consumption on those who both drink and toke up, a new study has found. Kent Hutchinson, a clinical neuroscientist at the University of Colorado Boulder and the senior author of the study, examined a paper released last year by researchers at Northwestern University that identified changes to regions of the brain that are a key to regulating emotion and motivation in marijuana users who smoke 1 to 7 joints a week. Hutchinson's team said they tried to replicate those results by recruiting dozens of adults and adolescents and conducting brain imaging on them and comparing daily pot users to non-users. But Hutchinson said they took a different approach to rule out the effects of alcohol. Quote, "We found no evidence of differences between daily versus non-users in adults or adolescents," end quote, Hutchinson's paper said. Parents of children with debilitating and terminal medical conditions shared emotional testimony Wednesday in support of legislation that would make North Dakota the 24th state to legalize medical marijuana. But North Dakota Attorney General Wayne Stenehjem said House Bill 1430 raises numerous concerns about regulation and public safety and is, quote, "far from ready for enactment," end quote. Representative Pamela Anderson, a Democrat from Fargo who introduced the bill, offered amendments Wednesday that would reduce the cannabis possession limit from 2.5 ounces to 2 ounces, clarify that smoking pot is a non-medical use, and delay the law's effective date to June 30th, 2016. People who have obtained a recommendation for medical marijuana also would be allowed to cultivate up to 6 marijuana plants, allowing for 3 or fewer mature plants. Stenehjem said, quote, "The effect of the passage of this bill is going to send us in the opposite direction from combating impaired driving, and people will die because of it," end quote. Pro-pot group Responsible Ohio spent nearly $1.3 million on its campaign to legalize marijuana in the Buckeye State before it announced any details of its November 2015 ballot initiative, state campaign finance records show. Much of that, $857,300, went to a Columbus consulting firm, the Strategy Network, headed by the campaign's executive director, Ian James, according to the group's January filing with the Ohio Secretary of State's office. Responsible Ohio reported spending $156,000 on polling and $115,000 on consulting from 270 Strategies, a national firm founded by former Obama campaign staffers. That level of spending is typical of Ohio ballot initiative campaigns once they're collecting the hundreds of thousands of signatures required, not before they've even submitted ballot language for initial approval. The group's plan would limit production to 10 specific sites owned and operated by investors in the campaign. Responsible Ohio pushed back against critics, saying the amendment would grant a constitutional monopoly on growing marijuana in Ohio. The German federal government wants to make cannabis more accessible to sick Germans as a means for pain relief, according to the country's drug representative. Quote, "It is our goal that in the future more people in Germany will be able to receive cannabis as medicine than has been the case until now," end quote, Marlene Mortler, the federal government's drug representative, said on Tuesday. The case until now has been that only very few receive cannabis as part of medical treatments. At present, less than 300 Germans are authorized to purchase marijuana in pharmacies, almost exclusively those suffering from terminal cancer, according to the Federal Health Ministry. For critically ill patients allowed to purchase cannabis in pharmacies, a gram officially costs between 15 and 18 euros, according to the Federal Chamber of Pharmacists. For ordinary citizens, German law currently forbids the possession, cultivation, and sale of marijuana, though the drug can be consumed legally. Elisha Figueroa, director of the Idaho Office of Drug Policy, told the Senate Health and Welfare Committee on Tuesday that her office is opposed to legalizing a non-intoxicating marijuana derivative for medical uses. According to some studies, the compound, CBD, may be effective in treating epilepsy. Figueroa said, "Some Idaho parents whose children suffer for epilepsy are already traveling to states where marijuana is legal." But Figueroa does not think Idaho should follow course. CBD remains a Schedule I narcotic under federal law, and she asked, "How can the state pass a law in clear violation of federal drug law, apparently unaware that 2/3 of the U.S. have already done so?" This has been your 420 Radio News for Thursday, February 5th, 2015. I'm Russ Belville. You can get 420 Radio on the go with the Ustream video app for Android and iPhone. Go to rad-r.us/420Ustream or just click the Ustream app icon for Android or iPhone below the live radio feed at 420radio.org. The International Cannabis Business Conference is coming to the Hyatt Regency Hotel in San Francisco, California, February 15th and 16th, 2015. Don't miss this exclusive opportunity to hear from the experts on the future of marijuana commerce, including scientists like Dr. Carl Hart, Dr. Amanda Ryman, and Dr. Stanton Peel, policy experts like Ethan Nadelman from Drug Policy Alliance, Anthony Johnson from Oregon's legalization campaign, travel author Rick Steves from Washington's legalization campaign, and California legalization pioneer Dale Sky Jones. Business experts like Harborside Steve D'Angelo, RQ Group's Troy Dayton, and UFCW union leader Dan Rush. Cannabis journalists like Ricardo Baca, Steve Bloom, and Doug Fine, and California Republican Congressman Dana Rohrabacher, plus many, many more. Tickets are on sale now at internationalcbc.com, but hurry, last year's conference in Portland, Oregon was a sellout. International Cannabis Business Conference, San Francisco, California, February 15th and 16th, internationalcbc.com. NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks are far less.
The Green Cross has been an amazing source of cannabis medicines for my pain management. Whether I need edibles or tinctures or topicals, I'm able to combine the 2 or 3 to give me really successful pain control.
It's the delivery service that Green Cross provides is just incredible. You get your medicine and it's delivered by a person that you trust.
Whether we come to you or you come to us, the Green Cross delivers.
Welcome back, everyone. It's 14 and a half after the hour, and in Behind the Headlines today, we're going to take a look at the phenomenon of the marijuana vending machine. MedBox started this a while back, but there's a new company on the block. They're called Zaz, ZAZZZ, and they have unveiled a new marijuana vending machine in Seattle. This is particularly at, let's see, the location is, I got to remember which one it is, Seattle Caregivers, that's it, which is a medical marijuana dispensary. And every time one of these medical marijuana vending machines is unveiled, the media just freak out over the idea that there's going to be pot in a vending machine. Brings to mind the idea of cigarette vending machines that I grew up with, where kids had easy access to get themselves a pack of smokes when no one was looking. Or the vending machines we have in our high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools, dispensing all sorts of soda and junk food. But folks, these vending machines we're talking about are as far from a regular vending machine as a bank is from an ATM. This is an amazing piece of technology. And some of the reports on this, The Atlantic has a great article on this, where they point out that, first of all, the product is not even seen in the vending machine. The entire front of the vending machine is a large video touchscreen interface that will show you pictures of the products and give you all sorts of description of the products, but you can't actually see the products. This comports with the law in Washington state, where cannabis can't be in public view, as it is in many states. It'll give you all sorts of information, and for now, it is just unveiled at that medical dispensary for people with medical recommendations. Hasn't yet crossed over into the recreational market yet. As far as security, previous vending machines, like the ones Medbox have put out, relied on a sort of thumbprint technology that required someone to register first before they could use that machine. We had to get their thumbprints into the database, so to speak. This one makes an amazing breakthrough in that the machine uses facial recognition technology to match the purchaser to their ID picture. They just put their driver's license or ID into the machine. It scans the picture. You stand in front of the camera. It scans your face and makes sure that the person with the ID is the person that is there at the machine. Pretty amazing stuff. Also, for security purposes, the packages that you get from the vending machine are tracked with RFID chips. That's a radio frequency ID chips. The machine itself is climate controlled and secure, very difficult to break into, and all the products within being kept at a good temperature and humidity for cannabis. Now, it will not accept credit or debit cards. That, of course, runs into all the federal banking problems that we've told you about so many times on this show. So for now, the machine will accept cash, but also will accept Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency that's very popular online. So that's just another way in which Bitcoin is making its inroads into the world of marijuana economics. And in addition to selling cannabis in the machines, they also sell all sorts of accessories and accoutrements, vaporizer pens, hemp oil, energy drinks, and so forth. Now, the machine itself, there's no list here on how much it costs or what the maintenance costs or anything like that is. But according to Greg Honan, the owner of Herbal Elements, which is another dispensary that installed the machine, said you can really stack inventory in a safe manner in a concentrated area. And that's where it's going to have a lot of allure for the cannabis owner, is this ability to have stock in cannabis without having to put it behind a bunch of display shelves that could be victimized by a smash and grab robbery, for example. Now, the charge, the first purchase made in the Zaz machine up there in Seattle was a gram of Girl Scout cookies that went for $15. So I know that price sounds high to some of us listening, sounds low to others of us, but compared to what the prices have been in Seattle, $15 a gram is a steal. Pretty good situation there. The machine is in the dispensary, so you do have to show your medical marijuana recommendation before you can enter the building where the machine's at. So that's how it's controlling this to just be for medical users. And it'll also have edibles in it and other merchandise as well. The machines, I think this is a great move and, very convenient for the customer. But we need to expand this to the users of cannabis that aren't using it for medical purposes. All consumers should have access to these machines. And if the opponents of marijuana are really concerned about the security and keeping track of all of the marijuana purchases, they should welcome these kinds of electronic improvements.
Well, good morning, my friends. Today we shall...
I spent the last 2 years of high school in a daze.
Liebermater had to get a little bit of Cottonmouth Kings on there for just a second, but President Obama saved us. Hey, folks, it's 4:20 in the Mountain Time Zone, so for all my friends, relatives, and family back there in Idaho, struggling with a woman who won't even entertain the notion of legalizing CBD for epileptic kids, toke up. If anyone deserves it, you do.
420 Radio is 24-hour marijuana legalization radio. Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz.
Big Daddy thinks.
Funky roller ring. Oh yeah, this is Big Daddy, and I'll be your freakazoid every Thursday night, right here at the Funky Roller Ring. Funky Roller Ring. 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, only on RadicalRuss.com.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 1920s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
That marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug.
Some think there won't be room for them in jail. We'll make room.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it and didn't inhale.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Radical Rant.
Welcome back, everyone. Almost 23 after the hour, and today I'm taking aim at KDVR Fox 31 in Denver, which has done an exclusive investigative report on poor people and their marijuana purchases. They lead with their lead is public tax money very likely paid for welfare recipients to smoke the equivalent of about 17 pounds of weed, or approximately 9,000 joints, in 2014. Oh dear, what a terrible, terrible thing. Of course, you got to love it also when they have to give you the joint equivalent, right? To make it sound so much worse. They point out that that's a small percentage of what Colorado ingested as a whole, but they don't tell you how small of a percentage now, do they? 17 pounds compared to the hundreds of thousands of pounds that may have been consumed in Colorado is a mere drop in the bucket. But they're all proud. Fox 31's all proud that they took time to analyze every ATM transaction in Colorado marijuana dispensaries. And what this is concerning is the use of what they call a Quest card in Colorado. It's got different names. It's Oregon Trail card out here in Oregon and so forth. But the Quest card is an EBT card, electronic benefit transfer card, that's administered under the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families Cash Assistance Program by the federal government. This is the typical welfare check that people think of. There's no checks anymore, though, folks. It all gets electronically put onto this card, and then people can make cash withdrawals with it or pay for things with it. They're upset that people have gone into dispensaries and used the ATMs at dispensaries, and not just medical, but pot shops. Let's be clear that people have used their welfare benefits at pot shops to be able to purchase marijuana. They pointed out that Fox 31 Denver traced at least $32,275 in welfare cash that was withdrawn from ATMs inside secure marijuana retail facilities. But again, no context. How much welfare cash is there in total in the state that is distributed to people? Again, this would be a microscopic percentage that we're talking about. And where I get so angry about this is the condescension and the infantilization of the poor. This idea that if we're going to give you welfare money, then we've got to keep our thumb on you and dictate exactly what is appropriate and not appropriate for you to buy. They even mention while the majority of cardholders bought appropriate items such as diapers and fuel for their cars, others bought marijuana. And what I have to ask is, why is marijuana per se an inappropriate transaction for poor people? See, what's really frustrating here, they also pointed out that when they did their research on this, they also found people doing withdrawals at strip clubs, casinos, and liquor stores. Okay? And they're trying to put a marijuana purchase in that same class. Like it's just something frivolous and wasteful and even harmful if you talk about people buying liquor, right? But I would argue that a marijuana purchase is not necessarily those things. For some of these people that are purchasing it, it very may well be for medical purposes. I mean, if someone uses their EBT benefit card to buy a bottle of aspirin or a bottle of sleep aids or some antihistamines or over-the-counter drugs of any kind, are those appropriate welfare purchases? You don't have to have a doctor's recommendation for that. You just have to have your own belief that purchasing some aspirin would help your headache. But we're not going to give poor people that ability to choose something safer than aspirin to work with their headache. They may not be quote unquote medical marijuana patients, but they may be using marijuana as an over-the-counter remedy for some of their ills. Also, let's just assume that it is purely recreational, that they're using their welfare money to just get high a little. Okay, well, that would lead me to ask, what sort of entertainment is appropriate to be purchased by welfare? Can they rent a movie at Redbox? Can they use their EBT card to pay for going to the theater? How about shopping at the convenience store and buying junk food? Is that appropriate or inappropriate? You know, what we ought to do here is we ought to just make it so that these EBT cards are keyed to specific barcodes, and then we can approve exactly what we think the poor people ought to be able to spend their money on. Let's key the EBT card so that it can't possibly be used to buy potato chips, but it can be used to buy rice. How about that? And how about when it comes to buying diapers, that you can't buy the super cool, huggy, snuggy variety that are super expensive. You have to buy the bargain basement generic stuff. We wouldn't want people wasting their welfare money, would we? Let's just dictate every single damn nickel and dime that a poor person spends, because obviously the fact that they're in poverty means that they're immature, irresponsible, and require the nanny state to keep their thumb on them at all times. We dare not trust the poor people to spend a little bit of money to get a little bit of relief from most likely working their ass off. You know, people that get welfare doesn't necessarily mean that they're not hardworking people. A lot of people are the working poor, working in minimum wage jobs, just trying to make ends meet. And they want to relieve their depression, their anxiety, their stress a little with a little bit of marijuana. I say good on them, especially given all the other choices they might make, and considering that trying to stop them from using their EBT card at an ATM in a dispensary is worthless when they can just go next door to the convenience store, use the EBT card there, withdraw some money, and then walk right next door to the dispensary. Let's stop infantilizing the poor. 420 Radio, the activist radio station. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Tokers, there's no good reason to get your dog stoned. While it might not harm them physically, imagine being a dog who already begs for treats all day, and then imagine that dog having the munchies. Not cool. The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, treat law enforcement with respect and stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney." Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com. Arguing for the end of adult marijuana prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It is even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more in this edition of Drug War Data Mining. Welcome back, everyone. 31 after the hour, and joining us today in Drug War Data Mining, we've got a special guest to give us a perspective of economics on marijuana prohibition. It's Mark Thornton. He's a fellow at the Mises Institute, and I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hey, Russ. It's great to be on your show. It's Mises Institute, actually. It's spelled Mises, but it's MISES.org. It's the headquarters, the worldwide headquarters for Austrian economics and free market economics. And I encourage you and all your listeners to come visit our site and benefit from it.
Excellent. Check that out. You say Mises, I say Mises. Let's call the whole thing off. No. What's the website for Mises, by the way, if you know it offhand?
It's MISES.org, and it's one of the largest economic web pages in the world, but it's written for everybody out there in the American society, and really it goes around the world, and there are 21 unaffiliated Mises Institutes around the world. So this is a moving intellectual, academic, and ideological movement that's shaking the world out there, and it's so that's another reason why I encourage everybody to come to the site. It's all free, 24/7, 365, no registration. You can get all sorts of free stuff and discounted books.
All right, check that out, folks. And you mentioned it's the Institute for Austrian Economics. Can you give us a thumbnail sketch on what that label means? I mean, maybe in comparison to Chicago School or these other economic theories.
Well, it is similar in the sense that Austrian economics started in Austria, and the German economists of the time sort of derided these Austrian economists, and so it's a non-flattering nickname, basically, given by the German historical school. And Karl Menger was a business person and a journalist, and he created what was essentially a brand new approach, but a very traditional as well. And then it's a school because Menger had students, and Ludwig von Mises was a student of theirs. Murray Rothbard was a student of Mises. I was a student of Rothbard, and so it's progressive through time. And basically, Mises taught in Vienna, but he was Jewish, and when the Nazis invaded, he had to hustle out of there, and so he got to Switzerland and eventually to the United States and spread essentially this way of thinking about the world, this free market approach, so that most Austrian economists are actually Americans now. But again, it's growing throughout the world, whereas the Chicago School has got a big name but a shrinking base and a shrinking reputation, even within free market circles.
Okay. So, Mark, I'm curious about this because I've read a few of your papers online at Mises with regards to the economics of prohibition, and I'm just wondering how much legitimate study among economic schools has there been on the issue of prohibition, and how much is it changing now in the landscape of newly legal states?
Well, many people associate economists with calling for the end of the drug war, but actually the early 19th century American economists were all for prohibition. They were for all sorts of government regulations and control over people's lives. And it wasn't until more recent times that prohibition has fallen out of favor with economists. And when I was writing my dissertation in the late 1980s, there was virtually nobody working on this subject. Now today, it's something that's studied a lot more. Drugs, addiction, crime, prohibition, all of those issues are studied in much more detail. And it's something I've been working on for a very long time. My book, The Economics of Prohibition, an electronic version of that is available on Mises.org for free. You just type in The Economics of Prohibition and PDF, and you'll get the link to a free electronic copy.
Oh, that's excellent, and good reading for everyone out there who are interested in these newly evolving markets in marijuana. And with respect to that market, it's kind of an interesting set of laboratories of democracy that we've got going here. Colorado's got moderate to high taxation with home grows allowed. Washington's got exorbitant taxation with no home grows. Oregon and Alaska are proposing, instead of a price-based tax, going by a weight-based tax. Give us your impression on these unfolding markets in these 4 states, and where do you see within them that is good, bad, or indifferent?
Well, Russ, I think it's absolutely wonderful, first of all, that we're not only have we broken through politically, which is amazing, but we've done so in a marvelous way. If you don't know the answer, you should be experimenting. I know the answer, you know the answer, but these politicians don't know the answer. And the fact that they're experimenting, I think, is a very good sign. The fact that the American people, now the majority of them, 58-60% of Americans, support legalization of recreational marijuana use. Over 85% support legalization of medical marijuana use, at least. And the American people in those states, Colorado, Washington, they stood up and said, baloney to the federal government and baloney to the United Nations. We're doing it on our own, and don't try to stop us. And if you do, we'll vote you out of office as well. So American Surgeon General, made positive comments today. Sanjay Gupta of CNN switched sides. And so I think it's great. And eventually I think this experimentation is going to move in the direction of full legalization, where you have commercial and grow your own conditions without the large heavy tax burden, because the large heavy tax burden, that leaves the black market in existence, and it leads a lot of bad behaviors in some cases to stay in existence. So I feel very confident that we're going to go in virtually every state to legalization of medical marijuana and legalization of recreational marijuana, and that there's going to be a progressive tendency to have a rational regulatory and taxation approach where you don't put exorbitant taxes and you don't have onerous regulations. So I see that happening. One of the things I'm concerned about is that it takes a long, long time sometimes. Just imagine alcohol prohibition being repealed in 1933, and we still have a couple of states, including my state, with government-run alcohol stores and very high taxes. Actually, Alabama has moved in the right direction on a number of things. In my hometown here in Auburn, Alabama, which is a college town, at one time they did not allow kegged beer or draft beer to be sold in any form, and that's been changed. Alcohol sales on Sunday has changed. So while I'm expecting a very fast movement towards legalization in the states and in the cities and the localities, very often once you get through the first round or two of that, then reform slows down and it gets mired in bureaucracy and red tape. Even Colorado, there are lots of places in Colorado where you are not allowed to grow, you are not allowed to have retail operations, And so there's going to be a lot of problems, but, as far as this issue is concerned, I am very optimistic that we're going to get a great deal of improvement, because not only is that 58 to 60% supporting legal recreational use, but the only age categories that oppose legalization are the older groups. And so, of course, those people die off, and the younger groups have stronger support. So I think there's going to be, demographically, the move is going to be obvious.
We're speaking with Mark Thornton. He's a fellow at the Mises Institute. You can find them at Mises.org, MISES.org, and make sure you look up The Economics of Marijuana Prohibition, his online book that you can download for free to learn all about this. In the couple minutes we got left with you, Mark, I'm just wondering, have you done any studies on price and availability? I mean, one of the things we're looking forward to as marijuana consumers is the end of the Prohibition tariff and competition and free markets leading to a crash in the price of marijuana. Any forecasts on what that might be anytime soon?
Yeah, I think the price level nationally is going to come down as more and more states allow production, distribution, and consumption. I think you're going to see, a big increase in production, and some of that, of course, is going to leak out from the legal states into the illegal states. And I think you're going to see a lot more people having to be legally allowed to grow pot on their own. And I think that the court cases going through right now, I think you're going to see nullification in court cases where somebody needs medical marijuana, or somebody's, not causing any trouble and using marijuana recreationally. And when the police bust them and bring them to trial, I think you're going to see juries nullifying those verdicts in the same way that the voters nullified federal prohibition. So I think if we keep pushing the envelope and juries nullify these court cases, which they have the right to do, and when they see a father with a family threatened with 10 years in prison for growing marijuana for his grandmother or his mother or himself, and putting that family at risk, I think you're going to see juries all over the country, even where marijuana is still illegal, nullifying those laws, and that's going to put tremendous pressure on public policymakers, and ultimately that's going to drive the price of marijuana down very significantly, because, as you know, in a commercial setting, the price of marijuana would not be very high at all, and no pun intended there. And also commercialization is going to lead to a lot of new recreational products and recreational forms, and it's going to, I think the most important thing is it's going to lead to new medical adaptations. I think the potential for medical marijuana to solve a lot of our health problems is enormous, and I think we've just scratched the surface. And when that gets out, as it does, I mean, you hear about retirement homes and things like that where everybody's eating marijuana brownies. This is something that's going to bust open the American political system, and it's going to teach every American a lesson about liberty.
Oh, it's a good lesson to be learned, and it's not too late. Thank you so much, Mark Thornton, for your expertise and knowledge on this with the Mises Institute, Mises.org, MISES.org. Look up The Economics of Marijuana Prohibition. Mark, thanks for joining us. We'd love to have you back sometime.
Russ, I'd love to be back on your program soon.
All right, take it easy, and War Eagle.
Hey, thanks, Russ. Take it easy.
Herb's going to kill me for saying that. He's a Roll Tide, but we'll get by. Hey, we got time coming up after the anti-drug PSA.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
We're going to be showing you the New York Times piece on guns, drugs, and money. 420 Radio, the home of marijuana experts. Are you in the market for portable vaporizers now? Get online to vapes.buzz, the quick and easy link to portablevaporizers.now.com.
Vapes.buzz has everything you're looking for, including vape pens, herbal vaporizers, e-juice, parts, accessories, and more. Visit Vapes.buzz and save 5% instantly, or give them a call at 866-264-2415. Vapes.buzz. Get vaping.
You know how I talk every week and complain about the NCAA not modernizing the rules? That's another rule they got to modernize. And this whole war on drugs has been an absolute failure across the board. And somebody's got to step forward, and we're looking for Obama to step up and say, why are we punishing people for things that are legal? Why are people languishing in jail for things that are legal? You look at the front page of the Register Guard right here in Eugene today, addressing that same exact point.
Well, you're assuming we don't know what Upshaw, what violation of team rules that he committed. You're assuming that he committed a violation for marijuana, but that's not what Lorenzo Romar has said.
Well, they can't say anything because of privacy rules.
Williams Goss, nice drive, and it's a one-point game again.
But I can read, and I can ask people questions.
Right, but what if it was worse than that? What if it wasn't just that? What if it was something else? That's another thing that's been discussed, because there's an offensive foul call here on Oregon.
In the interest of fair and balanced journalism, the Russ Belville Show presents the anti-drug public service announcement of the day.
Know the truth. Marijuana is harmful to our youth. Using marijuana is related to poor school performance. Heavy marijuana use by youth seriously impairs concentration and memory during peak learning years. More young people are now in treatment for marijuana dependency than all other illegal drugs combined. Know the truth. For more information, please visit Deschutes.org/marijuana facts. Brought to you by the Deschutes County Children and Families Commission, Jefferson County Best Care Prevention, and the Crook County Community Coalition.
This has been the anti-drug public service announcement of the day. To cure this sort of reefer madness, listen to the Russ Belville Show every weekday on 420radio.org. Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio, among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org. Mark Twain once said that when there's a gold rush, it's a good time to be in the pick and shovel business. Today we look at the rapidly evolving markets in the marijuana green rush in our Cannabusiness Chronicles.
Welcome back, everyone. 47 and a half after the hour, and today we're going to turn to some video that we've received from the New York Times, a 10-minute piece entitled Guns, Drugs, and Money. No, it's not a Hunter S. Thompson biopic. It's the cannabis banking dilemma. We've reported on this many times, how the legal cannabis industry in Colorado and Washington are unable to secure bank accounts to be able to handle their business transactions, oftentimes leading to them having to carry around garbage sacks full of cash to take to the IRS offices or to other vendors that they have to pay, obviously creating a public safety issue and the potential for robbery and other mayhem. Let's turn now to the New York Times and their piece, Guns, Drugs, and Money.
I've heard other businesses in our industry put cash in shoe boxes in a closet, safes in a basement, holes in the ground. The biggest challenge to our business is banking, by far.
I'm afraid that someone is going to get killed before the federal government wakes up.
As long as we have that much cash on the streets, it will remain tempting. We're kind of asking for it.
We grow old thinking about how safe our money is. It's a nightmare, and we live it every day.
We're getting close.
Last $2,000.
20s make the world go round.
Yeah. Banks won't even let me exchange them for hundreds anymore.
Yeah, it's all in there.
Awesome, we're all good. Sweet. We could just get a paid cash signature and we're good. Is there like, should I always just be looking at you the whole time? Okay. This is where we start all of our plants. We root them. We've got cuttings, which are copies of clones. From there, they get taller in these smaller pots, and they'll grow up, as you can see, in a bit of a succession. And then they go on the floor over here to where they will get transplanted into larger pots. And once they're at a certain height and age, we'll send them out to flower. And that's where they'll begin to start producing the buds and the trichomes for getting high and all the many different forms it allows.
Sour poison?
Yeah, like that.
Want to try that one?
Yeah.
And you're familiar with how to dose yourself out with that?
Yeah.
Is business good?
Business is great. Karen Kynes, Boulder's first recreational marijuana dispensary. From last year, we've grown 7.5 times. I've been able to go from 3 employees to 12 now. And we could afford to buy a brand new 4-bedroom home every year with the tax revenue alone that we send to the state. But yet we can't bank at all. We can't get a checking account, credit cards. We can't get mortgages to secure property. We've had over 12 bank accounts in the last 6 years, and to date, they've all been shut down.
Marijuana is illegal under federal law. And even state-chartered banks are ruled by federal bank regulatory agencies. And there's no way to get around the very explicit statement in the Controlled Substances Act that it's illegal to deal in those controlled substances or the proceeds therefrom. Literally, the acceptance of the deposit by the bank is money laundering itself.
How much of your revenue comes in cash?
%100% of our revenue comes in cash.
There you are. Right on. And if you can't get a bank account, where do you put the money?
In very secure, discreet locations, unfortunately cannot tell you about. This is federal taxes that we pay in cash. Also our payroll, when we pay all 12 employees, they're getting envelopes of cash. These are state taxes, vendor payments that are due to go out for orders of other products like edibles. The other challenge is we have to transport and move money. So this is all money that's due to be transported and moved today, and to our secure location we transport as frequently as possible to lower the risk at any given point of cash on hand in the facility. Driving around with large amounts of cash, tens of thousands, is overwhelming, anxious, scary, frustrating, all those things wrapped into one tense drive, and it never goes away.
There's been a few publicized instances of robberies. Fortunately, nothing has gotten violent yet, but we're kind of asking for it.
And
Since cannabis has been legal.
Yeah, we have seen a crazy growth in revenue.
So you're already a multi-million-dollar.
We are a multi-million-dollar company. That's correct. We've grown from about, I'd say, right when we got into this industry, we were doing maybe $5,000 a month to we're doing upwards of $200,000 a month currently, and we're projecting upwards of $500,000 a month within the next 6 months. Because we're an ancillary business to the cannabis industry, they've shut down bank accounts of ours in the past, literally 4 hours before payroll.
It is very frustrating to not be able to put money in the bank. I mean, we're providing a service for a legitimate business, and the government will take tax dollars, but we can't put money in a bank. There's a double standard there.
We know of 8 banks in the state out of 148 that are accepting deposits. And the regulators have basically said, you can keep this activity limited to this small number of accounts that you've been serving for the last decade, perhaps, under our medical marijuana statute, but you may not expand this to be a major focus of the institution.
Banks that I talk to mainly see that as a yellow light, that we're not telling you you can do it, we're not telling you you can't. That was not enough permission for them to feel comfortable with moving forward.
We do currently have a bank account, and I do expect it to be around, but I am, I'm cautious on that statement.
A very large investment bank that we had all of our banking relationships with decided that they no longer wanted to do business with us. That investment was $7 million from direct Wall Street investors and private high net worth individuals. Unfortunately, that also affected all of my personal assets and even went so far as they threatened to shut down my 86-year-old father's investment accounts because he had listed me as a beneficiary.
We've got banking through a management company that we've established that handles our payroll and a very few select bills that have to be paid through a bank account. It's extremely tenuous. We are afraid to call for any kind of customer service. We deal with our banking very, very delicately.
We think that most of our members will enjoy using the drive-through teller lines because they won't have to exit their vehicle and walk on the city street with large amounts of cash. Banking is the lifeblood of any business, and it's a right for a lawful business to have in order to succeed. Fourth Corner Credit Union is the first credit union established for the specific purpose of providing financial services to the legalized cannabis and hemp industries. And now it's simply waiting on its master account from the Federal Reserve Bank. Without a master account, you can't write checks, you can't make electronic payments. You can't sponsor and be a principal for credit card transactions. We need all that.
Is there any way for you to open without the Federal Reserve Bank acting?
The Fourth Corner Credit Union could operate without its master account, but we'd just be a giant safe, and this industry already has plenty of safes.
It's a hellish trip. You're always just kind of hyper alert, hyper aware.
I think Fourth Corner not getting a master account will be a setback. Rather than getting the sort of open approval of the federal government, I think everybody will question, okay, federal government, where are you on this?
It gets a little more comfortable, especially the more we do it with arm protection. But there's always still that little something that could go wrong.
Cannabis as a product is not a public safety issue. The lack of banking for the industry is a far more dangerous problem.
And obviously the odds are, the more you do it, your chances go down, but we just maintain protocol and have the right proper guys next to us, and that's all we can do.
Great video there from the New York Times, their piece on guns, drugs, and money. That's available at the New York Times, also through their YouTube channel if you'd like to share that with friends. But folks, that's all the time we got here for Hour 1. But stay tuned, Toker Talk Radio is jam-packed as well. We got Monty Blaze coming into the studio, telling us about his new 420 radio show coming up soon, Blazin' with Monty Blaze. We might even hear some music of Monty's. Also at 4:20, Chuck Diesel comes in with the Daily Toker Tunes. Today's tune comes to you from Kevin Gates. And then we will bring you the coverage of this morning's press conference from New Approach, Oregon, fighting for the implementation of Measure 91 as written and voted on by 56% of Oregonians. But like I said, that's all the time I got for Hour 1. Thanks for joining us. I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.